we're going to be writing equations again. The first thing that we're going to talk about are x and y intercepts, which are super easy, and then we're going to talk about point slope form. Okay, so it's just a different form of the line. A lot of the things that you see, this section will repeat what we've already done. So your homework shouldn't take you very long, which means you can go back and make up some stuff, okay? Anybody that's on Zoom that has not done your test, you had a test on Friday and you just didn't do it. And I'm not sure why, but y'all need to start working on any, just because we were on a 2-hour delay does not mean anything at all. On top of, on Wednesdays, you have assignments, so you have to start working. You're getting too far behind. But Friday was a test, and so it's a major grade, and your grades are going to drop as soon as I put those zeros in. So please make sure you go back and fix those, okay? So the first thing that we're going to talk about are x and y intercepts. And we know what x and y intercepts are, like where they cross on the graph or whatever, so we know about them. But what if we wanted to find them? So to find x intercepts, you're going to plug in 0 for y. So you plug it in for the opposite. So that way you have x left over when you solve. Guys, you need to be taking notes, not just sitting there. And then to find y-intercepts, you plug in 0 for x. So just so you guys can see that. So our first equation is 3x plus 4y equals 24. To find an x-intercept, you plug in 0 for y. So we do 4 times 0. Remember, 4 times 0 gives you 0, so that just crosses itself out. And we get 3x equals 24. Sorry. And then we're going to solve for x. And the way we do that is we get rid of the 3 by dividing, again, things you already know. And we get that our x-intercept is 8. That's all you do, okay? Plug in 0 for which of the opposite one you're solving for, okay? So if we're trying to find our y-intercept, we're going to take our equation and we're going to plug in 0 for x. Yep, it's that easy. So this doesn't count. So then we're going to divide by 4 to get rid of it. And we get our y-intercept is 6. That's literally all you do. All right. On the next one, we just have a different equation. Remember to find x-intercepts. Plug 0 for y. So we have 5x minus 6y equals 60. We're going to replace y with 0. And again, we just mark it out because it's going to be 0. We're left with 5x equals 60. We divide by 5. And we get 12. And if you need to use your calculator, that's fine. Okay. So to find y-intercepts, we're going to do 0 for x. So we're going to use that same formula. 5x minus 6y equals 60. But this time we're going to do 0 for x. This marks out. It's a negative 6y, so we divide by negative 6. And 60 divided by negative 6 is negative 10. Any questions? It honestly doesn't get any harder than that. So if we're trying to find x-intercepts, plug 0 for y-intercepts 0 for x. So then we're going to go to the point slope, and here's your point slope formula. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Where m is your slope and x1. Simple. These first two are really easy. You're just plugging in. So write an equation of a line that has a slope of 1/2 and goes through -4, -6. So 1/2 is your m, x1 and y1 is your points. So our point slope looks like this. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Your y coordinate is -6. So we get y minus -6. I'm going to clean it up. If you can clean it up in your head, that's fine for you to do. Your m is 1/2. Then you have x minus whatever your x coordinate is, which is -4. What does a minus make? Two negatives make a positive. So this will be y plus 6 equals 1/2, and minus makes x plus 4. That's all you have to do. So basically you're just changing the sign of the coordinate. We're going to do the same thing on the next one. I'm going to write my point slope form. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. 3/2 is your m. Your coordinate is x1, y1. We have y minus, what's our y coordinate? Y coordinate. You gave me the x. 1. What's your m? 3/2. Perfect. And then we have x minus, and our x coordinate is -2. So we have to fix that one. So your final equation, y minus 1 is fine. Your 3/2 is fine. Minus makes a positive. There's your point slope. You've seen these and you don't know that you've seen these. Okay, we had to solve them for y. And we'll talk about that once we get towards the end. Okay, any questions? Point slope. That's pretty much what your homework's like right now. A line passes through -3, 6 and has a slope of 5. Here's your coordinate, x1, y1. Your slope is m. Here's your formula again. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So we get y minus, what's your y coordinate? 6. I don't have to fix that one. Equals, what's your m? -5. X minus, what's your x coordinate? Minus makes a positive. So I just change it to a +3. You can write it out or you can change it in your head. It's up to you at this point. Okay, so change the sign. Same thing on the next one. Here's your x1, y1, slope of 6. We're doing y minus y1, m times x minus x1. Okay, so it's y minus -4, which would make what? Y plus 4, good. What's your m? 6. And then we have x minus, what's your x coordinate? 3. There's no change in that. So your final is y plus 4 equals 6 times x minus 3. All right, the next one, same thing. Here's your x1, y1, and your slope. So y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. The only thing I can tell you is just watch your signs, okay? Just watch your signs. And you're changing them. So if it's a negative in the coordinate, in the equation, it's going to be a positive. All right? So what's your y coordinate for the first one? It's -7. Oh, in the equation, it's going to be +7. So you're always changing them. What's your m? 4/5. What's your x coordinate? But we're going to change it to +2. That's it. So just change the sign of your coordinate. All right, so what happens if they give you 2 points? We've already done this 2 points, but we did it with y equals mx. And remember, we do that by y minus y over x minus x. And then the second thing you're going to do is make an equation. So let's start with our slope is m. Remember your y minus y over x minus x. And we did those in our calculator. So we did alpha y equals and got that fraction. What are your 2 y coordinates? We have x, y, x, y. On the bottom, we do our x's. And we get 7/3. So that's your m. And then you pick either coordinate. It does not matter. Okay, does not matter what coordinate you pick. It'll all turn out to be the same in the end. Got it? So choose whichever one. I'm going to choose the x and the y on the first one because that's your first coordinate. So we're going to do y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Remember, we changed the sign. So what's your first y coordinate? 4. So it'll be a -4 in the equation. Our m, 7/3. And then change the sign of that x coordinate. What was your x coordinate? So it's going to be -1 in the equation. That's it, y'all. Okay. And again, if you would have used the other coordinate, still the same. Okay, still the same equation. Don't stress out about it. All right, here we go again. Same thing. We're going to find our slope. We're going to do our alpha y equals. What are your 2 y's? So 6 minus 3. And on the bottom, your x's? -6 minus 3. And we get -1/3. Then we're going to do our equation. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. You can pick either one. I'll show you this time. We'll not use this one. We'll use the other one. It'll work the same exact way. Okay, it's the same thing. So our y coordinate is 3. So in the equation, it'll be -3. Our slope is -1/3. And then again, we have a +3 as our point. So in the equation, it'll be -3. If you chose the other one, you would have y minus 6 equals -1/3 x plus 6. They're both the same equation. Okay. Once you figure it out, like solve it for y, it'll be exactly the same. Okay. Everybody good? All right. Flip your page. We talked about these a little bit as you guys went through your homework. So these are special lines, which means they're going to be horizontal or vertical. If they're horizontal lines, they're going to be y equals some number, and if they're vertical, it's going to be x equals some number. So if they're horizontal, they go through the y-axis. We talked about that. That's why it's y equals blah, blah, blah. If they're vertical, they're going to go through the x-axis. So that's why it's going to be x equals. So check this out. See how your y's are exactly the same? I'm going to show you that it's going to be y equals 4. Okay. Now I'm going to show you the point slope formula and then how to solve for y so that you guys can see that or whatever you see. Okay. So if we did our m, we would get y minus y over x minus x, which would give us 0 over 5 or just 0. So when we put it into our equation, y minus, doesn't matter which one you pick, y1 is 4. We have 0 and x minus x, which is 3. What is 0 times anything? So all that in the back will turn into 0. Does everybody see that? How do we solve for y? We add 4 and we get our equation that I already told you. What's easier? Being able to recognize it is a lot easier, but can you get the equation without seeing it? Yes. Okay. What's the difference in number 2? Look at those coordinates. Your x's are the same this time. So it's going to be x equals, and what is x going to equal? 2. I'm going to show you what that looks like, but the next 2, I'm not going to do that, okay? I'm going to show you what it looks like. Our m is going to be 3 minus 5 over 2 minus 2. And if you guys put that in your calculator, it's going to come up an error, so it's undefined. That automatically tells you that it's a vertical line at x equals 2. Already tells you. All right, so now look. Undefined slope tells you what? What equation are we going to have? X. And the x on that is 2. So our equation is x equals 2. This one, we got a 0 slope or no slope is going to be y equals, and then whatever your y coordinate is, which is negative 2. You don't have to show the work, okay? Not at any point. All right, we're doing the same thing. We're just doing point slope. So we have a table. Remember, the 2 things we need is 1 point and the slope. So remember, the first thing we need is your slope. And in the table, it's the change in y. Over the change in x. And then we'll do the equation, the one that we just learned. This keeps you from having to go backwards in your chart and find the y-intercept. You guys remember how we had to go backwards to get to 0? We don't have to do that with point slope. So we're going to write that equation. What's happening in this chart each time? If you look at these 2, it might be a little easier. Okay, so these 2, if we're just, I'm not going to look at these, just these 2 are minus 100. What about these 2? Yeah, plus 40, right? So your slope, change in y is negative 100. Change in x is a positive 40. We can use our calculator to reduce that. I'm going to do math, enter, enter. And we get negative 5 over 2. You can pick any of those points. It doesn't matter. I'm going to pick this first one. That's your x, that's your y. So when you write your equation, y minus, what's your y coordinate? 590. Our slope was negative 5/2. X minus, what was your x coordinate for the 590? 30. That's all you did. I don't have to find the y-intercept because it's within that problem. Much simpler than having to go backwards and find your y-intercept. Less to screw up. So what does the slope represent? Tell me what slope means. So if we have a slope of negative 5/2, which is the change in y over the change in x, our y is altitude, our time is seconds. So this is a decrease of 5 meters per 2 seconds. Why is it a decrease? Because, yeah, and it's minus. And just in general, what does the y-intercept represent? What do we call it? What's another name for the y-intercept? I write it all the time. Where you... Remember, your y-intercept is always where you start. So it is the starting y. So in this case, it's the starting altitude. Adam, you're fine. Don't worry about it. Okay. So we're going to do the same thing on the next one. You guys can flip. These have smaller numbers. They're a little bit easier. We're going to write an equation. Remember, the first thing you need is your slope. So we're going to find our change in our y. Which one can we see? 20 to 8. What is that? A decrease of 12. So I'm not even looking at these anymore. What about 5 to 6? Plus 1. So remember, change in y over the change in x just gives us negative 12. Pick either coordinate. It doesn't matter. I'm going to pick the 6 and the 8 this time for my x and my y. So y minus, what's our y coordinate? 8 equals, our slope was negative 12. X minus, what's your x coordinate? 6. That's your equation. What does the slope represent? So what is negative 12? Since it's negative, it's a what? Decrease. Okay. What's your volume in? Units. What's your units for your volume of paint? Gallons. Decrease of 12 gallons per what? 1 day. Or you can just say per day. What does the y represent? The y-intercept? Starting what? Gallons. Very good. Yep, we're almost done. It's not bad. All right. So a 5-minute overseas call costs $7.50 and a 10-minute overseas call costs $15. The cost of the call and the length of the call are related. So write an equation. So what they give you is 2 points. 5-minute call for $7.50. A 10-minute call for $15. We need a point and slope to write an equation. So let's do our slope. What are your 2 y coordinates? So 750 minus 10. Our 2x, I'm sorry, 15. I was thinking ahead, sorry. What are your 2 x's? 5 minus 10. Thank you, Corbin. I appreciate it. We're going to do alpha y equals, I'm going to clear this out so you guys can just see that. 750 minus 15 over 5 minus 10 gives us 1.5. You can leave it as 1.5. I'm okay with that. If you'd rather have it as a fraction, you can put it as that. I don't care. And remember, EDA will take the 1.5 because it's not a rounding decimal. So again, I don't care which one you use. And then you just pick either coordinate. I'm going to pick 10 and 15. Okay. So here's your equation. Y minus, what's our y coordinate? 15 equals our m was 3/2 or 1.5, whichever one you want to use. X minus our x coordinate is 10. All right, so anytime we're plugging in, it says, how long can you talk on the phone if you have $32 to spend? You need to know what your Y is and what your X is. So we had a 5-minute call that costs $7.50. So what's your Y? The cost, the $7.50, right, is your money. What is X? The 5 and the 10, what were they? Minutes. So if I have $32, does that go for the cost or for the minutes? The cost. So I'm going to plug that in. 32 minus 15 equals 3/2 X minus 10. What are we solving for? For X. Okay, so we're going to solve that. First thing you're going to do is this 32 minus 15 to clean it up. If you need your calculator, you're going to get 17 equals 3/2 times X minus 10. What do I do when I see parentheses? Say it again. I got you. Distribute. So I leave the 17. 3/2 times X is 3/2 X. Negative 10 times 3/2 is negative 15. Okay, so there went your fraction on that one. What's on the same side as X but not with it that I need to get rid of? So I'm going to add 15 to both sides. If you need to, use your calculator. I get 32 equals 3/2 X. How do I get rid of the 3/2? If you're going to divide it, make sure you put it in parentheses. So 32 divided by parentheses 3/2. Otherwise, it's probably going to mess you up. And I get this crazy number. You can, but on EDA, it won't do that, right? So how long can you talk? About 21 minutes, 21.3 minutes. So that's it. So the worst part of this is having to plug in. All right, one more. Biologists have found that the number of chirps some crickets make per minute is related to temperature. The relationship is very close to being linear. When crickets chirp 124 times a minute, it's about 68 degrees Fahrenheit. When they chirp 172 times a minute, it's about 80 degrees Fahrenheit. So what are my 2 points? 124.68 and 172.80. Very good. We're going to find our slope first. So we're going to do our y, 68 minus 80 over 124 minus 172. So 68 minus 80, 124 minus 172 gives us 1/4. If you don't like it, again, you can change it to a decimal as long as it's not a repeating decimal. Okay, make it not a repeating decimal. Write your equation, y minus. Pick either one, it doesn't matter. So I'm gonna mark this one out and I'm gonna pick the smaller numbers. So what's your y coordinate? 68. Equals, again, you can do the decimal if you like looking at it better than a fraction. That is perfectly fine. X minus, what was your x coordinate of that point? 124. What did y represent? What did the 68 represent? 68 what? Degrees. So these are your degrees. What did x represent? The number of chirps. All right. So how warm is it when the crickets are chirping 150 times? So where do I plug that in? In the x. That's perfect. Absolutely. So we get y minus 68 equals 0.25. Our x is 150 minus 124. This one, anytime you plug in for x, it's way easier than the other one. Way easier. Why is it easier? Because you're just putting all this in your calculator. So we get y minus 68 equals 0.25 times 150 minus 124. And we get 6.5. And then how do I solve for y? How do I get y by itself? Look at it. Add 68, perfect. So we're gonna add 68. And we get 74.5. And that will be degrees Fahrenheit. I don't care about the units. All of your units on your test will be the same, okay? So don't stress about units too much. All right, any questions? What you're gonna be doing more of is this part right here, and this part where you're actually making the equation, okay? Everybody got that? So if you need help, ask questions. Don't go anywhere yet, Zoomers. Hang out for a minute. Tomorrow you're going to work on parallel and perpendicular, same thing that we've been doing, but we're doing it with point slope. So it's actually a little bit easier with that as well, okay? So I'm going to stop sharing, stop recording.